on Airbnb. The report's going to be discussed today. And I know, hotels have a big say in this, but what about residents in condos, for example, who don't know who their neighbors are?
I have indicated to a number of my colleagues and to even people in other governments that I think this is an issue that is slowly rising in terms of the temperature. And it's rising in neighborhoods where people are saying, look, I don't really buy into the notion that somebody should own 3 houses on my street and treat them in effect as hotels without any kind of inspection, licensing, or anything else. And just in terms of the character of the neighborhood, it goes through to some condo and hotel buildings that are in the same building, and people are being treated one way on the sort of bottom 20 floors in terms of taxation and regulation, and people are being treated a different way on the upper floors. It goes through to a whole bunch of different things like that. And so one of the things you'll hear me move this afternoon is that this report that you have read, that is in front of the Executive Committee, suggests that they could come back to us with some draft regulations at the end of the year. I'm going to move, and hopefully my colleagues will approve, and ultimately Council will approve an acceleration of that timetable so that we could have a draft regulation in front of us next spring, because I believe that if we want to keep on top of this, that we have to have that regulation in front of us so we can put something in place. I think that from what I gather from talking to our staff about it, the likely direction, and I don't want to anticipate exactly what they're going to do, but the likely direction of what they would do is not dissimilar to what a number of other cities have done in common. So I'll just direct you there in terms of saying, well, you can see if you look at other cities and what they've done, a number of common features to the type of regulation they brought forward. And our staff have indicated that they think the likely pattern for us is similar. And so I've said, well, that should make it a little bit simpler. I know these issues are tough to draft something up so that we could have it sooner than they had planned. So I view this with a sense of some, concern. I won't say urgency yet, but it's rising in terms of the temperature.
But is it like Uber? Is it a really tough thing to regulate?
Well, I don't think it's that tough to regulate, and in fact, what you don't have here is the kind of very polarized discussion, and I want to prevent that from happening. My job is to try to find a way, which I think we did successfully, and I think for all the talk we had between yourselves and me and everybody else around town about Uber, I think we did very successfully exactly what I set out to do, and I think the temperature of that has gone down. I'm not saying everybody's happy, but I think that the citizens were well served, and I think people now feel a greater sense that there's a fair, balanced regulation in place that applies to everybody, and people are complying with it. So I think our obligation now with Airbnb is to make sure that they're brought into the regulatory fold, that that's done in a responsible way that actually addresses the real problems, which have to do with fairness, which have to do with the character of neighborhoods, and things like that, and that's exactly what I'm going to see us trying to accelerate this afternoon.